Hi, everybody. Megan Thompson here with Megan Thompson Coaching. And I just wanted to speak about a myth that I often hear parents talk about in conversations, whether we're working together or we're finding the time to figure out if we're a good fit. And so wanted to discuss the challenge that I see a lot of parents struggle with in terms of figuring out whether or not their child's intense emotions that are leading to big daily meltdowns or emotional outbursts or regularly frustrating events like aggression, hitting brothers and sisters, throwing things, feeling so wound up that they say no to everything under the sun, no matter what you're asking them to do, whether it be to go take a walk and play outside or shift gears from, ending mealtime to go play. The frustrating thing that a lot of parents speak about is that your child, especially as a highly sensitive child, might have what we call a quick to no. Let's go do this. Quick, no. Let's do this. No. Let's go do this. No. And so what happens when you hear that over and over and over and over again, when you're trying to help your child change their perspective or get with the program or follow through on the expectations so that they can go enjoy their life? One thing that we see parents experience often is this challenge that they're trying to help their child learn coping skills, manage intense emotions in a way that helps them experience the world and have fun with it, as well as experience expectations and walk through, following through with chores and paying attention to the routine and going to bed on time and ending screen time, etc. What we see from parents often is when your child is immediately saying no, the common misconception that we hear parents often say is, well, I probably just need to say it harder. I probably just need to be more firm, or probably just need to be more strict. So for those of you who are here watching live, say hi. Let's get a conversation going. If you're catching the replay, #replay. We want to see who's listening and who's hearing and what's going on from you and your perspective, as well as notice. We pay attention to who's learning and what you're learning about. So when we think about one of the things that we're speaking about, it really is helping parents understand the difference between saying no to something and struggling to say yes. So if your child is immediately saying no, what is common common parenting methodology or even common sense says, well, then I just need to be more firm with it. I need to help my child understand this is not a negotiation. If you're raised in traditional parenting, maybe that's how you were raised, where it was, my way or the highway, or even some way, shape, or form of that, where your parent was trying to explain to you what was going on, and then all of a sudden, eventually, if you didn't get on board, then they would lay down the hammer, right? If that's how you were raised, then one of the challenges that you probably have is not wanting to get to that point where you have to lay down the hammer. And I'm slapping my hand, not because I'm expecting or implying that you are using corporal punishment, but really what I'm getting at is that there comes a point in time where you, in parenting, need your child to move on from their frustration, move on from their intense emotion, and follow through on what you ask them to do. But what happens, we see often parents struggle with, is this challenge. Hi, Paula. And we see parents struggle with the frustration of getting their child to follow through on their task without yelling, without saying, why can't you just do it the first time, without lecturing, without even having the thought cross their mind that if they had used a spanking, that maybe their child would have eventually caught on that what they mean, they mean what they say. And so we know that you guys are following what we teach and you're paying attention to what we speak about. And so we know that that's not what you value. You don't value yelling. You don't value corporal punishment. You don't think that that's going to work effectively. And whether that be through trial and error or just by understanding the research and paying attention to it, that none of those strategies work for parenting in general, but especially not for highly sensitive kids. And so when we think about the challenges that parents often experience, is this sense of really what it is your own personal guilt and shame, that I should have been able to figure this out. And if I had just held a tougher ground, then my kid would have gotten on board. And we see this often for parents who are actually highly sensitive. And so regardless of whether or not you're a highly sensitive parent, the biggest challenge that we have as parents is we're asking ourselves, what can I do better? What can I do to impact this? How do I make it stop? Especially if you're dealing with daily meltdowns. How do I make it stop? It's like the survival mode question that you're asking yourself over and over and over again, right? And if you're in a 2-parent household, it's like, how do you make it stop? How do I make it stop? How do we make it stop? How come you started it again? And so you're having those conversations, whether they're in your head or with your co-parent, and sometimes even in front of the kids, right? Which is the worst part of this whole experience, is feeling like you don't know where you're going, but also that the two of you aren't on the same page if you are in a 2-parent household. And so then it creates this dichotomy of and this difficult cycle of feeling like you don't know how to get out of the frustrated cycle of watching your kid say no to everything that you want them to do, when you know that what you're trying to do for them is in their best interest. And so what happens? You seek professional advice, you Google, you look things up, and you get an indicator that your child has maybe fits the criteria for oppositional defiant disorder. Or you hear maybe your child fits the criteria for ADHD. And so the pediatrician sends you some paperwork and you got to fill out some forms and you got to send it to the teacher. But you know, in the back of your mind, you're saying, well, my kid is a perfect angel at school. So why would I ask the teacher whether or not they're quick to say no? Why would I even bring it up at the school if this is clearly a situation that's going on at home? But what we see often for parents is that highly sensitive kids can struggle with generalizing skill and learning and demonstrating their skills in multiple avenues of their life. And so what happens for you as a parent is you start to think, well, there must be something wrong with me. I just need to be stronger at this. And I just need to hold the line and toe the line and be harder. Be a hard ass, for lack of a better word. But then the other side of you, the other part of you as a parent, your conversational self is like, but that never worked. So then now what? And so when we see parents struggle with that, I really want to break down that myth that going harder means that you're going to be more effective. Because really we understand through not only the research, but also through tried and true experience, that for parents who are highly sensitive, or for parents who are raising sensitive children, and sometimes what that means is that we're talking about both here, you're highly sensitive and you're raising a sensitive child, going harder, having those intense conversations and raising intense emotion in order to hold a firm stance. You must brush your teeth right now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Regardless, I mean, we could talk about it, whether it be bedtime or brushing the teeth or turning off the screen. That's neither here nor there. It's the matter of the pattern that you're in, right? And we see parents who are in survival mode get stuck in the weeds. Well, it's he only does this when it's bedtime, or he only does this when it's time to brush his teeth. So then maybe it's about the toothbrush. Maybe I need to change the toothbrush. But really it is a matter of whether or not your child is able to acknowledge that what they want to be doing is not what they can be doing right now, and help them build a skill to get out of it and to deal with that frustration, that disappointment, the other emotions that are coming up for them, without yelling, without holding the line in a way that feels like your child has no voice. Without feeling like you're talking over your child or ignoring your child, because we know that those are all of the things that are running through your mind when you are holding firm and raising your voice. When you are even speaking to your co-parent or your spouse, when you're watching them do that, and you're waiting in the background, or just hands off, like, I need a break, and letting them take control, and because neither of you know what works best, and so you have to listen to them yelling from the other room. And even that sometimes can feel like your only sense of reprieve, because otherwise it would be you eventually getting to that frustrated, stuck place of raising your voice with your kids. And so we see parents struggle with this often. And I have to break down really what this is the frustration that you're experiencing is wondering whether or not you created this and you alone can get yourself out of it. And the answer to that is yes and no. And I know that if you're highly sensitive, you might be like, why are you telling me that it's not a black or white answer? But I think that the important piece around this is that as parents, we know that our kids are going to learn from us. They're going to learn how to generalize their skills from us. But if you have a sensitive child, you're not just a model, you're also a teacher. You're also their core sense of skill development, and their core root of skill development comes through the parent-child relationship for highly sensitive children. And it's a common misconception that we hear from professionals as well as traditional parenting and traditional and even just like common pop psychology or whatever, that children can learn skills through another professional, and highly sensitive kids can benefit from those conversations. But what we see time in, time out is that you as the parent need to be the one teaching your child those skills. So if you're stuck feeling like if you were just harder on your kid and told them that, whatever, no means no and yes means yes, and that's it, end of story, then it would be easier. My question to you is, then why didn't it already work? Because I can imagine that you've lost your cool with your kid once or twice. If you are, or 100 times if you're watching me for longer than a week. And then if that's the case, then a quick fix isn't going to solve the problem, because towing the line and being harder, that's your mind thinking that a quick fix is going to solve the problem. I just need to do this one thing and it'll be fine. That's a quick fix, guys. That's a magic wand. And while we talk about, magically being able to end meltdown cycle and doing that quickly and swiftly, especially with our clients, the main problem is about the parents think that it is that's going to lead to that is the magic is in a system. The magic is in being able to repeatedly know how to pivot in a moment when your child is stuck without feeling like you are overriding yourself, without feeling like you are undermining yourself or undermining your spouse, and living in the world, which is gray. It's not just black or white. It's not just brush your teeth or don't. It's how do I get my kid to brush my teeth without yelling? How do I get my kid to brush my teeth without it taking an hour? How do I get my kid to brush their teeth without me literally holding the toothbrush and them moving their mouth up and down? Okay, fine, we brush our teeth, let's move on. But you can't do that forever, right? So how do I get my kid to brush their teeth independently in a way that actually feels sustainable? So if you're looking for not just a magic wand, but also not a quick fix, then you need to be focused on what sort of questions you're asking yourself when you're trying to solve the problem, and how you're telling yourself how to solve the problem. Because if you're telling yourself just that you need to solve the problem of ending the meltdown cycle, think about how complicated that is. Day in, day out, your child is managing big emotions, and they don't know how to manage their skills and demonstrate their skills effectively and efficiently on a daily basis, repeatedly, in multiple step directions, with multiple circumstances, with multiple variables. And you think just holding down a tight line and saying it with a firmer voice and more serious with a stern tone and a furrowed brow is going to get you your result day in, day out, then guys, that's a pipe dream. I don't have that magic wand. If I did, I would bottle that and patent it. But instead, you have to learn how to pivot. You have to learn how to understand that your child is a human being, and that human beings need grace, and sensitive human beings need more grace and consistency without yelling. And human beings need more grace. Highly sensitive human beings need more grace with firm boundaries, but not strict, rigid rules. And that's how sensitive children learn. And in order to do that repeatedly, you need support, you need accountability, and you need structure. And it's not something that you can figure out and pick up from a book or a video. Just watching something, occasionally. You need to figure out whether or not you're a fit for a system that's going to work. And so that's why we set up the call, because we have a lot of parents who are wondering, oh, can you just tell me what I need to do in this particular circumstance, or what I need to do to get out of the meltdown cycle for bedtime. And honestly, the answer is, if you're only focused on bedtime, then you're going to be in a whack-a-mole situation pretty soon if you haven't already been in that situation and aren't realizing it. So maybe earlier you were experiencing daily meltdowns related to friendships or leaving the house or getting off the screens, and now it's bedtimes. Then that in and of itself is an observation that the meltdown cycle has maintained for years, and you know that. And focusing on just how do I get my kid out of this certain circumstance and stop the meltdowns regarding this certain circumstance is looking very narrowly at a very small problem that requires actually a bigger, broader focus, with the ability to feel like you can stop a meltdown and prevent a meltdown in any circumstance. Because if you can do that, then you can live your life freely. You can be spontaneous. You can hold an expectation that might change tomorrow, because tomorrow is a different day. You can help your child understand that while you are generally a reasonable human, there are some days that you have to say no, and no means no. And you can help your child express and understand that disappointment without freaking the heck out. So if that's what you're looking for, then we would need to get on the phone to determine if we're a good fit. And I would encourage you to do that in a way that helps you understand that, especially if you're in a 2-parent household, that this is a 2 or even 3-way street with your child, your spouse, and yourself. And that needs to be determined with more nuances than just asking a quick question or posting it in the Facebook group. Because we don't know if we're a good fit, but we need to determine that in a conversation. So in terms of understanding where you're at and where you want to go and whether or not we can help, we do that on the phone, and we're happy to support you in figuring that out. So what I would encourage you to do is go ahead over to meganthompsoncoaching.com/talk and book a call. See if we can support you in changing the dynamic in your household, getting out of the frustrated place where you feel like you just constantly are playing whack-a-mole, and hearing from your child, no, when you really are looking for, okay, mom, or okay, mom. I mean, honestly, as parents, we can have standards and then we can have acceptable, right? And so our standards are here and acceptable here. But what I don't want to hear from you guys is that acceptable is like 1 out of 10 times my kids follow through on what I ask them to do, and the other 9 times I drag their feet, I deal with a meltdown, and I throw my hands up and say, he'll grow out of it, because that's not how life is. And it's definitely not how life works for sensitive kids, because if your kid isn't learning, generalizing the skills right now at this early of an age, then your child is going to struggle significantly for a really long time. And we know that's not what you want, right? All right, so we'll talk soon. I'm keeping it short this week because I'm at the beach, and next week I'm totally off, so I'm excited about that. And enjoy your day, guys, and I'll talk soon. Bye.